Sundays, there is probably too much clapping and excitement when she says Matt is going to come up to preach. And I feel uncomfortable with that. And this morning I felt uncomfortable with the lack of effort that was given. I'm a hard guy to please, you know? If we have not met, my name is Matt Olszewski. I am one of the pastors here at H2O Toledo. And we have been in a series all summer called The Beginning of Wisdom. And so we are this summer just in the book of Proverbs, which is a whole book of the Bible written so that we could get wisdom, get God's wisdom, and understand more about who He is, but also about how we should walk through life and all the different things that we experience in life. How can we take this wisdom and move forward? And so we've also been doing this Proverbs challenge. It's not like anything that anybody had to sign up for. It's really just a challenge that we threw out at the beginning of the summer. There are 31 chapters in the book of Proverbs. That means you can read a whole chapter every single day and learn something. And so we've been challenging everybody to do that this summer. And outside near the coffee, there's a big sheet of paper that says the beginning of wisdom. And if you read a proverb, throughout the week, you can kind of write your summary of what you learned out of that proverb. And so if you were reading this week, I want to give you a bonus proverb this morning. This has nothing to do with the main message, but I want to give you a bonus proverb because on the 26th of May, if you read the 26th proverb, there is probably one of the most confusing proverbs in the whole book that is stated. And here's what it says. It says, "Do not answer a fool according to his folly, or you yourself will be just like him. Answer a fool according to his folly, or he will be wise in his own eyes." Those are back to back. And that's confusing. Which one is it, right? If Proverbs is supposed to give us wisdom and help us walk through life, this doesn't seem very helpful, right? Because they seem conflicting. But here's, I think, the point, is learning to know the difference of what kind of fool you are dealing with is the wisdom to be learned here, right? So there's a certain kind of fool that if you are in an argument, they're going to take you into a circle of just foolish arguing over and over again. But there's another kind of fool that if you actually correct them, they might actually be ready to listen. And I think that is the wisdom that we need to learn, is to understand, what kind of fool am I dealing with? Or what kind of fool am I? Do I want to just get into circular arguments and be foolish over and over again? Or do I want to listen to somebody that has something helpful for me? Okay? So, potentially confusing proverb, but I think that is our best understanding of how we move forward with that. So, this morning, we're going to talk about a topic that is repeated throughout the book of Proverbs. If Proverbs is anything but repetitive, scratch that, I don't know how words work. Proverbs is very repetitive. They say the same thing over and over again. And the topic that we're going to be talking about this morning is pride. And I usually don't like to start out by saying something so extreme that you just tune me out thinking, he's saying something extreme and I don't want to listen to anything else that he has to say. But I'm going to start out by saying something extreme, and I want you to stay with me the rest of the service, okay? I don't want you to tune me out. And this is your first fill-in if you have a handout. There is no greater catastrophic power in this world than pride. There is no greater catastrophic power in this world than pride. Every tragedy that we've experienced or that we see comes from pride. Every evil action in this world comes from pride. Every form of abuse and neglect comes from pride. Every argument that we've ever been in comes from pride. Every divorce comes from pride. Literally everything. If we were to make a funnel and throw everything that we experience in this world, it would all funnel down to the core issue of pride. That is the truth. Literally everything we can think of. And if pride, if it goes unchecked for too long, it literally consumes whatever gets in front of it. That is how strong pride is in this world. And that is why the Proverbs speak to it over and over and over again. And we kind of know this intuitively, right? Like, we are disgusted when we see certain things that happen in this world. And we see pride take someone over. We see pride overtake our lives. Because unfortunately, we have to face the reality that even though we can recognize pride in others very quickly, we also have to recognize that pride is very much living inside of us. And that we use our hearts and our prideful ways in ways to damage and hurt others. And again, that's why page after page in the Proverbs, you're going to see words like pride and arrogance and boasting and haughty. Haughty, that's not a word that we use very often. Just means you think you're superior to others. It's a fun word to say, but that is the last time that I will use it. I don't like saying that word. I would just like to use words like pride, arrogance, and boasting. So, whenever the topic of pride comes up in Proverbs, it is always grouped up with extreme descriptive words. Okay? Anytime pride, arrogance, boasting, there is another word that describes in an extreme way of what is going to happen with that pride, that attitude. And I want to just give you a few examples here, okay? The first one is Proverbs 16:18. It says, "Pride goes before destruction, a haughty spirit before a fall." That means with pride, things are crumbling to pieces. Whatever once was standing is now destroyed. A wrecking ball is the choice of tool that pride has. It destroys anything good. It just takes things down. Nations, communities, businesses, families, our own personal hearts. Pride gets in the way and starts destroying anything that gets in its way. And so all these things are open to destruction because of pride. And then we move on. Proverbs 13:10, it says this, "When there is strife, there is pride, but wisdom is found in those who take advice." So any conflict that we've ever had in our lives, any conflict we've seen around the world, the core issue is pride. Where there is strife, where there is conflict, where there are people that aren't getting along, there is always pride. Every single time. And then we have Lady Wisdom. If you guys remember, back in Proverbs chapter 1, the author takes the idea and the concept of wisdom and personifies it. Takes wisdom and says, wisdom is like a woman calling out in the streets. So wisdom is a woman, and this is Lady Wisdom speaking. And she says, "To fear the Lord is to hate evil. I hate pride and arrogance, evil behavior and perverse speech." That's what Lady Wisdom says in Proverbs 8:13. So men, I want you to listen up here. I don't think this is like the exact lesson of that this is what all women think, but I think in general, one of the most unattractive things a woman can see in a man is their pride and arrogance. If you want to ruin a relationship faster, pride will get in the way of that. My wife, before we were married, when we were in college, she saw me play sports, and she got done, and she was like, that might be a deal breaker. Like, the way that he acted on the field is, I don't know. And she's told me that. She said, that was the first time I doubted our relationship, was I saw you play sports and the way that you treated people on the field, and she was like, I don't know if I can deal with that for the rest of my life. Well, joke is on her. She's still dealing with it. No, I've gotten a lot better. Sports are fun, right? Sports are fun. And then let's go to the most extreme example in Proverbs. And we're going to spend most of our time on this one, because these are hard words to hear. It says, the Lord detests all the proud of heart. Be sure of this, they will not go unpunished. That's hard to hear. And I think it can be confusing, right? We just went over one of the most confusing verses in Proverbs, and when we read this in Proverbs, I think we can have a lot of questions, and it can be confusing. And one of the most natural questions is, does God hate? Does God hate me if I'm proud of heart? And the uncomfortable answer to both of those questions is yes. It's yes. Because if you notice, it does not say God hates the attitude of pride. It says he hates all the proud of heart. God hates prideful people. And I want us to just let that sink in for a little bit, because that should be hard to hear. It's incredibly difficult to hear these words that God hates prideful people. But whenever we hear extreme language like that, specifically in the Bible, it should make us pay close attention. Like, we should start asking ourselves questions. Well, why? Why does he hate? I mean, if we were in a real life situation and we knew somebody and they said, I hate you, you would start asking questions of, well, why do they hate me? What did I do? Is there any way that this relationship can be fixed? Is this hate just going to consume them and our relationship is over forever? Like, we would pay very close attention if someone said to us and we knew for certain that they said, I hate you. We would pay very close attention. And I want us to pay very close attention to everything else that we're gonna jump into. Because I don't want us to get too far ahead of ourselves when we just hear the words of God hates the proud of heart. I don't want us to get too far ahead of ourselves, because here's the good thing: God does not operate only out of his hate. And stay with me. Let me explain this a little bit more. Because if you think about it, if we are honest with ourselves, if we are truly understanding the condition of our own hearts, we also have hate inside of us. We hate people who are committing unspeakable evil in this world. We hate others who knowingly oppress others for their gain. I mean, there are times when we hate people for much less things, like cutting us off in traffic or posting the wrong thing on social media. Like, if we're being honest with ourselves, we hate those things. And if we're being truly honest, we hate people at times. And I know as a culture, we have really taught ourselves to tell our kids, don't hate people. And that's a good thing. Keep teaching your children not to hate people. That is very, very good. But I think at times we are not totally being honest with ourselves when we say we don't hate anyone or don't hate anything. We have the capabilities, we have the room in our hearts for hate. And I think sometimes we just want to ignore it, or we say we don't actually hate. And the reason we know this If God says he hates the proud of heart, the reason we know just the feeling of hate is because God has put it inside of us. We are made in his image, and we know the feeling of hate because God has made us to understand who he is like. Now, here's the big difference between us and God. We are not perfect in our judgment of what we should hate, of what is just and right and good and fair. Only God is. So even though he has given us the ability to feel hate and to know what hate is, we don't always get it right on what we hate because we're not a perfect judge like God. God hates when wrongs are committed against other humans he has created. He hates when prideful people get away with things and it doesn't seem like justice is served. And that's why he promises, again, in that verse out of Proverbs, he promises that the proud of heart will not go unpunished. Again, very hard words to hear. God hates the proud of heart. I promise you they will not go unpunished. We should gulp a little bit. But there's good news. Because like I said, God does not only operate out of his hate for the proud of heart, but simultaneously, in relation to his hatred for the proud of heart, he also loves the proud of heart. And both of those can be true at the same time. He hates the proud of heart, but actually, his love for them overwhelms his hate. And that is good news for us. And here's how we know God also operates out of love. So God says the proud of heart will not go unpunished. Justice will be served, right? That means if we are all proud of heart and we all contribute to destruction in this world, because that's what Proverbs tells us, pride brings destruction, and we bring strife and we bring oppression, then we deserve what punishment God has for us so that justice is served. But what if God himself, out of his hatred for the proud, but also his love for the proud, took on the punishment that all of us deserved? That is the main central message of what it means to follow Jesus. That we understand we deserve punishment. That God hates the proud of heart. That he hates all the sin that takes place in this world. But because of his love for the proud of heart and all the sin in this world, his love overcomes that, and he actually offers us a gift. And that's grace. And that's another one of your fill-ins. God gifts us something we don't deserve, which is forgiveness. That's the definition of grace. God gifts and says, I want you to take this, even though you don't deserve it, but because I love you, here it is. The punishment that was deserved for the proud, which is you and me, all of us, the punishment that you deserved, Jesus himself took it on for us. And I want you to think of it this way. Imagine we were with Jesus right before he was about to go to the cross. Imagine we just had a personal conversation with him. Right before they were about to nail him to the cross, lift him up, go through all that pain and suffering. Imagine we were having a personal conversation with Jesus himself. And he said, I'm going to take on this punishment for you. You know what we would probably say in front of him? We would say, no, you don't have to do that. Like, I deserve that punishment. You don't have to do that. It's okay. And he would, again, respond to us and explain to us the reason why he was going to do it. And he would explain to us it's because of his love. That his love was going to send him to the cross so that he could take on the punishment for us. And then you know how we would respond again? We'd say, are you sure? Are you sure you want to do this? You really don't have to. And even though the scenarios are completely different, we would treat this like somebody trying to buy us lunch or a cup of coffee, right? Don't we do this? When someone says, hey, I got lunch, it's on me, I'm buying, how do we respond? No, you don't have to do that. It's okay. I can pay for my own lunch. And then they say, no, seriously, I want to pay for your lunch. It's okay. And then sometimes we respond, are you sure? Are you sure? And here's what I want us to remember. Here's what I want us to take away from this. Because as I've gotten older and I've been in these situations over and over again where people want to pay for something, here's what I've learned. You're not going to talk them out of something that they've already decided. And that's Jesus. Jesus had already decided, no matter what kind of evil we put in front of him, no matter what kind of pride we put in front of him, Jesus said, it's my gift to you. Just take it. Just receive it. And so what I've learned to say in those moments where people offer me food, I don't argue with them anymore. I just say, thank you. That's so kind of you. What if that was our response over and over to Jesus? Thank you. You are so kind. Jesus was not going to be talked out of the cross. And when we experience the kindness of God, that's what changes us. When we experience the kindness of God, that is what changes us. When we live in the truth of his grace, it is impossible for us to stay the same. Like something has to change when we experience his grace, when we understand and accept it. Now, for me personally, talking about pride this morning, I don't know if I'm the right guy to be talking to you because of some of my life situations, or if I'm the wrong guy to be talking to you because of some of my life situations. Because I would say ever since I was young, pride has had a presence in my life from childhood. Things that have often led to broken friendships or things that I've said that I regret to other people. But then in my late teens, that's when I started following Jesus. I started seeing and I accepted the grace that God would have for me, the forgiveness, and I knew that my life needed to change. And so my life did start to change. I started to see how my pride was getting smaller, but my pride was also becoming less external. But here's the problem, is that my pride very much existed in me internally. So from external appearance, you would say, that guy's not prideful. He's fine. But internally, I could feel in my heart the thoughts, the anger, the frustration that I felt towards other people, which was due to pride. And so I decided to do something about it. And this was probably, 5 years ago. I said, you know what, Matt, you should probably talk to like a professional counselor. That would be good for you. And I think counseling is great. I think, and I would recommend counseling. My story is going to reflect something different. So I sat down with my counselor, and I started sharing stories about how I felt frustrated and basically started out my counseling sessions. I am here because I feel like I am an extremely arrogant person, and I need help. So I would explain these scenarios, and every time my counselor would speak back to me, seems like you have every right to be frustrated. Sounds like you won't give yourself permission to get angry about things. So I would tell him, no, I'm trying to explain to you that the misguided and superior thoughts I have underneath all that anger is leading to pride and arrogance in me. And so we would do this week after week. I would give him another scenario, and he would say, that seems normal. You should be angry about that. You should be frustrated by that. So then at one of my last counseling sessions with this counselor, I did the most prideful thing you can think of. I explained another scenario to him where I felt like pride was consuming my heart. And to be expected, he found another way to affirm how I was feeling. And so I took over the counseling session at this point, and I started asking him questions, okay? So I said, why do you refuse to agree with me that I am arrogant and prideful? Like, I come here week after week, give you scenarios, and you just seem to say, that seems normal. And here's where my pride really shined. Because then I went on to basically say, without bluntly saying it, I think you are doing your job wrong, right? I even said at one point, and I quote, do you recognize how prideful it is of me right now to be questioning your counseling? And we just stared at each other, and that was my last counseling session. The reason I bring that up, it is a funny story. And I think counseling, again, is so beneficial. That was my just one experience there with counseling. If someone is prideful, they need the truth, not excuses or affirmation. Because like we've just got done talking about throughout this whole message, pride is so serious that it has major consequences if it goes unchecked. It will destroy. It will cause strife. It will cause so many issues in your life if pride goes unchecked. And so if someone is prideful, they need the truth, not excuses. So here's what pride is and why it's so destructive. There's a guy named C.S. Lewis who wrote so many books, had very many spiritual thoughts about Christianity, and he wrote a book called Mere Christianity. And basically his argument was that pride is competition. Pride is competition. And he says, pride gets no pleasure out of having something, only out of having more of it than the next person. We say that people are proud of being rich or clever or good looking, but they are not. They are proud of being richer or cleverer or better looking than others. If everyone else became equally rich or clever or good looking, there would be nothing to be proud about. Pride is about competition. Pride is about lifting yourself up above other people. And you guys are probably wondering why this ladder is here. This is what we do when we are prideful. We have another person standing on the other side of this ladder, and whatever the situation is, we're constantly trying to get ourselves above them. We're trying to get higher than them. We're trying to assert dominance over them, even if it's just by a story, if it's by our actions. Our pride elevates us up above people that we love, that we interact with. When I think about how difficult marriage can be at times and how beautiful marriage can be, the thing that gets in the way is one person starts climbing up the ladder. You know what typically happens in a marriage when one person starts climbing the ladder? The other person starts climbing the ladder. And then it's a race just to see who can get higher. And that's destructive. It's hurtful. That's why pride destroys. And that's why I say we need to get off the ladder. Because we even do this with God. Right? We say, I know better. And we think God is sitting right here on our level, and we're like, I'll get above you. And God's like, You have no idea what you're doing right now. You don't even know. You don't understand. I am God. I am the creator of everything. You can't get higher than me. Just accept my gift of grace and lower yourself. So here's an important note that I want to make before we move on, because here's where I think pride impacts me personally the most. And if it impacts me, I would say it impacts you as well. You can even be prideful when you are right. Right? The example that I just gave in marriage, sometimes in an argument in marriage, someone is right. They have the right answer. They're the one that knows the answer. They're the one that has the way to deal with whatever situation they are dealing with. They are right. But you can still be prideful and right. So my point is, don't let pride grab a hold of you, even when you know you are right. When you are right, you still have to make the choice to get off the ladder. So here's some pride detector questions really quick as we start to wrap up. And these are in your handout as well. How much do I dislike it when other people don't take notice of me? How much do I fixate on the flaws of others while also telling myself how much better I am than them? How much am I able to celebrate with others who accomplish things that I also want to accomplish? That's a hard one. How much do I think of myself and my own interests over the interests of others? Another famous pastor, when talking about pride, his name's Tim Keller, he says, the goal is not thinking less of yourself, but rather thinking of yourself less. So the goal is humility, right? If pride is the thing that is destroying, the goal is humility. But Tim Keller says humility is not thinking less of yourself, right? It's not saying, oh, I'm not a very good person or having low self-esteem. What Tim Keller is saying, no, just think of yourself less and think of other people more. How can you serve and love people? And in one of these future weeks, I'm actually probably going to change my topic to humility because we don't really have time to get into the meat of what it means to be humble. And so I'm probably going to change one of my topics later. But when we have been changed by God's grace, we ask Him to help us tear away from pride and take on His example of humility. That is what it means to follow Jesus. When we accept His grace, His gift that He's given to us, we say, God, take this pride away from me. Help me keep it under control and help me be humble. That's why Jesus, over and over again, said to His disciples, the first shall be last. Right? If you're looking to be first, I want you to move your target and lower yourself to be last. And then in Mark chapter 10, Jesus says this. He says, whoever wants to become great among you must be your servant, and whoever wants to be first must be slave of all. For even the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve and to give His life as a ransom for many. Jesus Himself said, I didn't come here to be served. You guys want to declare me king? And earthly kings, all the people are subject to that earthly king, and they serve, and they are subject to whatever he does. But Jesus is like, I'm a different king. I didn't come to be served. I came to serve and to put my body, something that I've already decided, to put myself on that cross to die for you. So So I want to pray, and I want to, me personally, I want to do something uncomfortable that I don't do enough. And you guys can have the choice of whatever you want to do as I pray. But I think a lot of times when battling pride, I think sometimes just a physical posture is helpful. Because to become humble is to lower yourself, is to think in a way where I'm not as great as I think I am. God is greater, and I'm going to lower myself and become a servant. And so I'm going to pray, but I'm going to kneel. And you guys can do whatever you want. We don't pressure people into saying, everybody kneel down and pray. If you want to do that, that's great. If you don't, that is okay as well. But I'm just going to get on my knees, and I'm going to pray, and the band can come back up. God, our hearts are so prone to elevate ourselves, to seek attention, to elevate ourselves above other people, to try to elevate ourselves above you. And God, I pray that we would see the destruction in pride. We would see how it destroys our hearts. We would see the power that it has to destroy others. So many things in this world, everything in this world. God, I pray that you would start changing our hearts. God, that you would even start to help us see that every day that we wake up, God, we need to cry out and ask you for humility, for your humility, the same one that you displayed to us, where you said, I didn't come here to be served, but to serve. I need that reminder every single day. God, thank you that your love overwhelms what you tell us in Proverbs about how you hate the proud of heart. God, thank you that your love is more and that you've gifted us with your grace. We humble ourselves before you, and we pray this in Jesus' name. Amen. So here's what we're going to do now. We're going to take communion, and the band is going to sing a few more songs. And throughout these next few songs, I'm going to be in the back, and Sarah is going to be in the back, and we're just going to have baskets of communion. And we are going to serve you communion. And so at any point during these next few songs, to recognize and remember the death that Jesus paid on the cross for us, this gift of grace, of forgiveness, something that we didn't deserve, but he said, this is yours. This is what we do communion for, is to remember that his body was broken and that his blood was shed for us, for the forgiveness of our sin. So at any point throughout the next few songs, you can come back to us. We'll serve you communion. We'll say, Jesus' body broken for you and Jesus' blood shed for you. And you can take it back to your seat, and you can take it at any point throughout these next songs.